Good afternoon, Reds fans, and welcome to Red Sky Pods and Livecasts. It's a bit of a sombre mood in here, with the exception of one of us. We've watched Liverpool lose a sixth consecutive home game this afternoon against a Fulham side, which, to be brutally honest with you, you can't say didn't deserve it. We've got a new panel member amongst us, which is Mr. Dave Cole. Hi, Dave, you okay?
Hello, mate, you all right?
So, Dave, we'll start with you. I just want you to sort of briefly summarise your thoughts on this afternoon's events, please.
Right, I've made notes. That's a bit scary, isn't it? To put it in a nutshell, how can I put this? I was watching it on one of the American channels, and they were going on about when he brought Keita down. Or should I say, Keita brought him down? Does anyone notice the foul by Fabinho beforehand? Yeah. You can go on with that. Obviously, he yellow carded him. The Mo Salah miss. Scott Parker, who looked as though he should be back in Burton's windows. And to top it all off, you had the little fella called Tattoo running around the side of the pitch looking for his plane. It's like, no. It was one of them days we were trying too hard, I thought. Really trying too hard.
That's been a feature in recent weeks, certainly of the front three, and in particular Sadio Mane, who again, when he came on, it's just no confidence in the lads' game at all. Another fresh air shot today in the box, didn't he? So I think it's a game to forget in terms of Liverpool's quality. So Tom, bring you in here, please, mate. Fulham fan, obviously delighted. Thoughts on the game, please, fella?
Yeah, I'm absolutely delighted with the performance today. I thought first half, to be honest with you, from my perspective, I actually thought we were good for a couple of goals, really. I thought if we would have taken our chances, we could have been a couple up. Similar story to the rest of our season. I thought Salah was really bright early on, looked like he was in the mood, considering obviously how he went off the other day. But he kind of faded as the game went on. Second half, obviously, with 20 minutes to go, 25 minutes to go, we're kind of holding on a little bit. We couldn't really get any possession anywhere up the field. Made a few changes, but just look at our two centre backs, like heroic performances. That the kind of when I think we played it out, you guys played it out, and he put it across the box, and Anderson clears it just in front of our goalie. There's been a lot of moments like that for us this season where we'll play like that up until the kind of 80th minute, 85th minute, and then something will not go our way. So as strange as it sounds, it feels like we were maybe due one against a top team, and it seems to have happened today. I was a bit surprised first half, to be honest with you, how easy, and I mentioned it before, but how easy Lookman was causing problems. We seem to, considering kind of what Anderson has done in the past few games where he picks it up from centre half and just plays it kind of where he wants over people's heads. I thought he was doing that a lot, and it was causing a lot of problems, which surprised me. But yeah, just kind of generally delighted to see kind of the reaction at full time as well. That there's a group there for Fulham certainly that are together and fighting for the cause.
When we read out the team, or we showed the team on the screen before the game, and I think the Liverpool fans in the room agreed that was perhaps our most inexperienced back four I've certainly seen for many, many years. I think the point you just made about Lookman getting in around the back of Nico Williams was he was often trying to get forward to support because obviously feels he needs to play a bit like Trent. And then he wasn't being spoken to by the guy playing beside him, Reece Williams, so it was difficult. Or Phillips wasn't telling him to stay at home. So that's inexperience while Lookman was getting in. And even when we're at full strength, teams target our right back, whether it be Trent or Nico Williams, it doesn't matter. So I wasn't surprised to see that as a tactic, but Lookman in particular got in a few times. Dave, you're looking pretty fed up there, mate, Howley. So just a quick one to you, mate. Just summarise what your thoughts are on the game today, please.
Not just today. I spoke to another mate of mine who's a Liverpool fan earlier, and after the game, and this is. I said this is as bad as I can remember, but it's actually worse than that. It is actually worse than that. And where we've been, you've got to be realistic about it. Where we've been, even 3 months ago, to fall off the edge of a cliff like we have done, is, listen, I'm not going to take anything away from Fulham. And Tom, mate, you were well worth the win today. Let's be honest, Fulham have come up, and after about 2 months of the season, they would have been everybody's, even with the predicament that Sheffield United found themselves in, Fulham are probably everybody's favourites for relegation. There's probably even some Fulham fans that they've put them down as favourites for relegation. And twice this season, we've been outfought, outmanoeuvred, and outplayed by Fulham. Both times. We're actually sitting here today. We are lucky to have found ourselves to have got a point against Fulham this season, in my opinion. It's really not good. It's actually worse than I thought it was. After Thursday, after the previous loss, after the previous loss before that, I've taken to the point where I can't actually, and it's nothing against Jurgen Klopp. I think, as you know, I think he's the greatest thing to have happened to our football club for 30 years. But I've got to the point I can't watch his post-match reactions because I actually at the moment I see a shadow of the man that was there not that long ago, and I still believe in him. I still think that he can turn it around, and I still think that he can do great things with our team and our club going forwards. But at the moment, it's a really hard watch. It's a really hard watch. The games are a really hard watch, and it's a really hard watch trying to see him talk about it after the game.
So Ian, just touched on Jurgen Klopp there because Dave makes some points which I'm not inclined to disagree with. To be fair, on the touchline today, he spent 90 minutes with his hands in his pockets, looking sullen. What effects that having on the team, and what does it actually mean? Looking at it, his body language. What's he telling us with his body language?
I put up a tweet about 20 minutes ago saying, "I'm just glad we're safe because if we weren't safe, mate, we'd be in trouble." I cannot see where the next win is coming from. I can't see it. When Fulham scored today on the 45th minute, we had another 45 minutes to go, and I was concerned about how we were going to get back in the game. And I haven't been like that for a long time. 6 months ago, if we were a goal down with 10 minutes to go, I'd expect us to score 2 or 3. I could not see where that goal was coming from today.
Yeah.
The effort is there somewhat. I wouldn't say it's there 100%. What's missing is the quality. We're just not creating enough. Apart from that one effort from Jota, which is probably the only piece of quality all game in the whole 90 minutes. There's something not right. Something's broken there. I get the injuries and I'm 100% with Dave. I wouldn't want anyone else in charge of our club right now, because I think if anybody else was in charge of our club right now, we'd be in even more trouble. But Klopp doesn't fill me with confidence at the moment when I see him on the touchline. There was a time when he was bullish. There was a time when he was a reflection of the team in a good way. Right now, he's a reflection of the team in a negative way.
Fair enough. Dave Cong, there's a suggestion on Merseyside that Klopp's fell out with the owners and that sort of happened that coincided with the downturn in our form. We've not really spoken too much about Klopp's situation, how he is, where he's at with transfer windows and things like that. So from your perspective, looking at him and looking at what's happening to his team, what's your thoughts on Jurgen Klopp right now and where he's at mentally?
I think he's dealing with a lot. With the club financially. They haven't backed him in January. You know, you can understand the money that they put into the club and done their new setup at Kirby and everything else and involved to the finances. But, you know, he's dealing with the loss of his man. The fella just looks to me like he just wants to curl up and die or go and get shit-faced with his mates to kind of get it out of his system, you know what I mean? But he keeps on getting the rug pulled out from underneath him, and then he comes up with a fix, and it happens again. And again, and again, and again, and it just keeps happening. He just looks like he keeps trying, but you keep pulling the rug out again, and you feel for him. But he hasn't got the players to back him. You know, the constant financial mismanagement of the club in a respect that where they're not backing him. but also in the fact that he's not got the quality of players. You look at our bench there; they should have made it safe and then put the new lads on or the young lads on. But the lads that were there for me today, the ones that he brought on, they were knackered, and that's why he swapped it all round. They're running on an empty engine with no oil, and the big end's about to go on the car, and that's why it's going up the end of the cliff. Like Powell was saying there before, you feel for him.
Do you think he's mulling over the situation in his mind, the lack of backing from the board? I get the feeling, and I've said this before, Dave, I've shared this with you before, we waited so long to win the league, and we built ourselves up, and then we won it. And then everybody went, right, relax. And they can't get out of relax. They're kind of stuck in that position where they kind of said, we've done it now, we've monkeys off our back, we're Premier League champions. Roy Keane speaks about it, and Roy Keane says a lot of nonsense, but I think he's quite right when he says that when you win something, you've got to look at your players to see a hunger in them to go again.
Yeah.
Is it fair to say this has been coming since we came back from lockdown? Because we haven't really got going since we came back from the first lockdown every day.
Well, the problem is as well, you've had your spine and your bone ripped out of your team, and that's the problem. And they've had to, when you've got to play your two centre midfield players at centre half, and even out of one of them gets injured. There's no solution or answer to the problem. They haven't got going, but it's because the car's run out of petrol. You know what I mean? The lads are running on empty. How many has had COVID? And that apparently debilitates you. And he couldn't go into the transfer market in January to bolster the squad. And the lads who, he brought in at centre half, would you play any of them at third choice even? Because I wouldn't, And that's what the lad's dealing with. It's not even for the fact that we haven't got going. They've not even got on the bus to go to the game yet because they're all still they're all still sat there. You can go on when we won the league. Robertson never played for about 5 games, even though he was playing because he was permanently shit-faced. It was obvious.
Yeah, it's tough at the moment. The thing is, I see this more and more. I'll touch base with you on this scene before I go back to Tom for a little bit on Fulham. How many Liverpool fans are taking to social media to say, I'm not surprised we lost today. I don't feel shocked or I don't feel sad or disgusted anymore. It's kind of become what we do. How concerning is that? I know it's not everybody, but there's a percentage of the fan base that says that. And there's a percentage of the fan base that feels that, but wouldn't dream of saying it on social media. So
you look at the week. You look at this week, Steve. Sorry, mate, to interrupt you, but you look at this week coming up, and you're not confident, even though you're 2-0 at home going into the second leg, are you? I'm not.
No.
I'm not. No. I don't know about the rest of you boys, but I do think to myself, Leipzig have got to come out and they've got to have a go. Of course they have, because they're 2-0 down, so they need goals, and I think that might play into our hands a little bit. But I'm saying I'm like this. Me, Ian, and you have been saying it for weeks. Somewhere you go into every single game is like you've got everything crossed, and that's like I totally agree with what Ian said earlier. Like you'd have got not even a year ago, 6 months ago, we'd have been 1-0 down with Sheffield United at home. We're 1-0 down. We get 2 late goals and we win the game 2-1. Do you know what I mean? That wasn't that long ago. But now you just can't see it happening. As soon as you can't score a goal, you're struggling like fuck, aren't you?
But they say in football, winning becomes a habit, and they're absolutely right, it does. But then so does losing. But at the moment, we've certainly got that habit. And our fan base is starting to accept it. And that was the point I was going to put to you. And, some will say it because they don't care, and some won't dare say it. Is it a concern that we've kind of not accepted it, but we've come round to thinking that might be just how it is at the moment?
Yeah, I think it is, mate. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a massive problem, because if we're feeling like that off the pitch, are the players feeling like that when they're on the pitch? That is my issue. And just something I just want to touch on what Dave was saying as well before. I worry about the FSG, and whether in 2018 there was a plan just to put as much money in as they could and then penny pinch for the next 2 seasons. And if that has been the plan, then you can see where that's coming through now. Because you've got your likes of Shaqiri and that coming on. It was £15 million from Stoke. It was all signings that were to save money. I know we can't be Manchester City and have 2 world-class players in every position because we're not that financially strong. Because let's be honest, if it wasn't for Liverpool the past 2 seasons, this league would be like the Scottish League is now.
Top shout.
And I think this season has been a reality check. Like you keep saying before, the story this season isn't how well Man City is doing. The story is this season of how much Liverpool have fell off a cliff. And the fact that Liverpool have fell off a cliff, there is nobody else to challenge City. Chelsea have won this league at a canter even more than what we did last season.
Right, so just put it out there to all of you. I'm certainly not FSG out, because I think they've done an awful lot of good stuff for the football club, right? They really have. They rescued us in dire times. At what point, with not qualifying for Champions League, because if the teams above us win their games in hand, we're like 9 and 10 points off it respectively. We've got to be realistic and say it's not going to happen, because it isn't. At what point do FSG say, right, we've milked the cash cow as much as we can, because this is a business transaction. They don't love the football club, and I didn't expect them to. But at what point do they say, okay, so we finished 9th, for instance, £200 million comes off the price of the club in terms of its value. At what point do FSG make a decision that they either invest in the club or they get out? Is that what we've come to in terms of challenging Manchester City?
I think it is. I think that's where it is now. It's about FSG making either a bold statement in the summer, or they find someone who's willing to do so and try and sell us to them. I think we've reached that stage now. I think Liverpool are at a stage now where it's like it was very similar to when we won the Champions League in 2005. We never capitalised on it, and very similarly this summer we've not capitalised on winning the league because that team is pretty much exactly the same, apart from Jota, who we brought in. Who, let's be honest, he might be an expensive signing overall, but with the instalments we're paying for him, he's not that expensive. Something needs to happen now before, because this could be us going now for the next couple of seasons. I expected us to go on and win another couple of leagues after this season, after last season. It's hard to see where that's coming from, Steve.
So that's where the likes of Graham Souness and people like that say you need to strengthen from a position of strength. And we won't be strengthening from a position of strength in the summer. We'll be strengthening from a team that isn't sat at the top table because we're not in the top club tournament. So it will make it difficult for us. Tom, from a Fulham's perspective, looking at Liverpool from a fan, because we look at our team totally different to how you look at Liverpool, because everything we do, we psychoanalyse to the nth degree. We think that's bloody marvellous. We think that's a load of rubbish. From your perspective, looking at Liverpool in the last sort of 18 months, what do you see?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, isn't it? Like, kind of coming from an outside perspective, it's very, very different. Obviously, you guys have such a heightened level of expectation on your team. Like, as a Fulham fan coming into the Premier League, especially, like today, for example, we're not expecting anything from this game. You guys are expecting to win, regardless of form and players and all the rest of it, recruitment, that kind of stuff. Don't get me wrong, Liverpool are a massive club, but you guys, what Jurgen Klopp's done over the past couple of seasons, the league, the Champions League, all that kind of stuff, your expectations are sky high. So anything that's going wrong now, I mean, you've lost, how many is that, 6 at home now on the bounce?
Thanks for that.
Yeah. I mean, look at it from a Scott Parker perspective. Scott Parker, up until the kind of recent 5-6 games, we hadn't won in about 10 games. And everyone was really, really enthusiastic about it because the performances were there. At the moment, it's obviously from an outside perspective, even if the performance is there, you guys need results. It's a results business, isn't it? You need to win. You need to win again.
Massively.
So, yeah, it's a huge difference in kind of the way that I would look at the league and my club and Premier League and the way
Levels.
you guys do, of course. Yeah, exactly.
So what I mean, Tom, is you're sat in the pub with your mates when the doors open, going to have a beer, and you're talking about Fulham, and I believe Fulham won't get relegated. I think they've shown plenty enough to stay in the Premier League. When you talk about the season, how it unfolded, how much of a shock to a fan that isn't a Liverpool fan is where Liverpool find themselves now? I think that's what I'm trying to get to.
Oh, massive. Yeah, of course. I mean, look at that front three. They were scary. Like, I know Firmino picked up, I think it was a little knock he had today, wasn't it? But you look at Salah, Mane, Firmino, the way you guys were playing. Van Dijk was almost, no one could get past him for however many games it was. It's a massive drop off in terms of what City are now doing. Yeah, don't get me wrong, City are playing really, really well at the moment, and no one's going to catch them. But yeah, I do agree with you boys. I think it's a massive drop off from where you were.
So looking into the future, lads, and Liverpool, just a sort of round robin round the room, yes or no, or a couple of lines will do. So starting with you, Dave Cole, do you think there needs to be a change of system and a change of personnel? Do you think we can reinvent what we did with the same squad we've got now?
I think we can, but we need all our lads fit. You can go on and on and on, surmising, who we're going to bring in, who we're going to ship out to freshen things up. But the system isn't broken. It's just the fact that we've got no bodies to revitalise it. The lads are running on empty, and that's part of the issue.
Ian?
I don't know. The most important thing we need to do this summer is make sure Klopp's happy and keep Klopp. If Klopp's there, he hasn't been found out. Nonsense. We need Klopp. Klopp is the most important cog in that machine.
Okay, Dave?
It's going to be really difficult. I spoke about it last night. I see people saying things, I've seen a few Mbappe stories resurfacing again this week. I said the other night that was pie in the sky.
Right.
Why would, I'm not being funny, we can't afford his wages. Why would he be interested in coming to Liverpool at the moment, at the end of the season? Because I agree with you, Steve, top four is gone. We've gone from a couple of weeks ago, the title's gone. Okay, look, the title's gone now. Focus on top four. We don't win the Champions League. We are not in the Champions League next season. There's a really, really good chance we won't be in the Europa League. And we agreed the other night that we don't need to be in that. We probably do need to have a summer off where everyone's can get themselves fit and well again. And then see where we are from there, because that might work. But you've also got the Euros this summer. So players are going to go off to that. Do you know what I mean? Jordan Henderson will be fit for that, and Jordan Henderson will go to the Euros, no question. Virgil van Dijk will be fit for that, and he will go to that. Joe Gomez, outside chance, he might go to that. There's plenty of our players are going to be off. I know other clubs are as well, but they're not going to get a summer off to get fit. So then I do agree with. I'm torn right down the middle. With Dave and Ian, really, in the fact that I think we need to invest, and I think we need to. I don't like to say dead wood, but get some players off the wage bill and get some other players in. But I can't see that. I can't see that happening to the level that we need to do it, because you probably need a turnover of about 6 players. I don't think that's going to happen.
I asked that question of the group because of the comments, and I've left the one on the screen there. It says only knows one formation. I just want to address that from my perspective at the moment. When you lose your 2 first choice centre halves and you lose the guy that starts a lot of the transition in Virgil van Dijk with the long diagonal out balls that he plays, we don't have a system anymore. We haven't had a system since October. So you can't say he's been found out and he only knows one formation. We're not playing the way that we play. We can't play the bodies in the right places, like Dave Kong quite rightly points out. So it's a little bit unfair to say he's been found out. We're playing off the. I say this all the time. We're playing off the cuff football at the moment. It doesn't represent a game plan. You can't sit and watch Liverpool games and say this is what they're trying to do. The games are being played out in real time. If we create an opening, create a chance to score a goal, great. But like Dave Kong quite rightly pointed out before, you can't stick the best 2 centre midfielders in centre back position and expect the team to carry on like normal. So in that regard, there needs to be a little bit of perspective for me in that it's not as bad as it seems. I think in terms of some of the personnel, because like Dave, you said, there's a few players there that Deadwood's maybe not the right phrase, but your Origis of this world, there'll be decisions to make about other players. You know, Oxlade-Chamberlain, where does he fit in? He's not getting game time at the moment, is he? So, you know, that's a difficult one. The lad will want to play football. So he might force that issue in the summer if he doesn't get in, especially on the current run of form. He must be thinking, what have I got to do to get a game? So there's lots of variables to answer in the summer. Tom, just going to you. We'll come away from the Liverpool thing, so we'll get a bit depressing, to be fair. What now for Fulham? What can you hope from Fulham between now and the end of the season? I personally believe that you won't get relegated. You've plenty good enough, plenty of ability and plenty of fight left in that team. So realistically, what do you want to see?
Yeah, I'd completely agree with you. I think after that result today, we put ourselves right, kind of back in with the pack. Really, I think we're joint on points with Brighton and Newcastle are a point ahead because of their draw yesterday, but or earlier today was it? But yeah, no. Between now and the end of the season, I think consistency again. Like we've been consistent now for about 10, 12, 13 games. We've been playing well. We just haven't been nicking the odd goal to get the results. I think between now and the end of the season, if we can keep doing that, then yeah, I think we can kind of pull clear of that bottom three. I think what has helped us as well, like, don't get me wrong, you need a bit of luck sometimes. And I think Brighton probably are worse than, joint bottom with us in terms of their goal conversion. They play really good football, but they just can't score. And that's helping us at the moment. Newcastle, I mean, they're touch and go, aren't they? So I think we can probably catch them. And we've got them on the last day of the season. So as long as we can stay within touching distance of Newcastle, we know we've got them on the last game of the season. But I mean, we go to City next, so you know it doesn't get any easier. And then we got Leeds after. So yeah, I mean, look, just from a Fulham fans' perspective, we're positive because of the way the team have been playing. Exactly what you guys were saying there about you don't look like you have a plan at the moment. Fulham look like they've got a plan. Everyone knows what they need to do. They know the way to play, even if the personnel changes. Bobby Reid comes in, Loftus-Cheek comes in, whoever comes in, they know what they need to do and they know the way that Scott wants them to play.
So when you sat down at the start of the season, sorry, Dave.
I'll just say a quick. Sorry, Steve. I had a quick question there for Tom actually, and just the last time he came up, they spent 100 million, didn't they, in the summer? Fulham brought in the likes of Schürrle and people like that just to try and bridge that quality gap, if you like. This season, as you said earlier, Tom, on the pre-match show, didn't do that. Gave those lads a chance, and then what he's done in the window is sign loan players. If they do stay up, Fulham, and I agree with Steve, I think momentum massive, isn't it? Massive. We talked about momentum in the week with Liverpool, but momentum massive thing, and I just wonder whether, as and when they stay up, let's put it that way, do you think next year that needs to be Fulham's model moving forwards? That they have a core of players that are within the club, and then they use the loan system in every transfer window to freshen up their squad. Do you think that needs to be their model, where they're not relying on, they're paying loan fees and they're paying wages to players that are on their books during that loan period, but they're not paying the big transfer fees that they maybe did a couple of years ago?
Yeah, I mean, don't get me started on the kind of the back and forth that the Fulham fans have had with Tony Khan and the director of football and that kind of stuff. But I mean, you look at this season, you look at the performance that Anderson put in today. I think Leon bought him for 22, 25 million odds. Wasn't really getting a game there. And Fulham eventually got him on deadline day for a fee of about 1-2 million, I think. So he's cost us 1-2 million, and what he could do for us over the course of this season to keep us in the league. And then possibly, fingers crossed, we stay in the league. Looking at next season, if he wants to stay and we sign him, then that's kind of it starts the spine of a team that could be consistent and competitive, you know? So, yeah, looking forwards, it was always going to be, I think last season, the championship for us, we needed to go up. Like we kept hold of Mitrovic, players on big money. We needed to go back up straight away. We did do that. And this season is just about scraping staying in the league. However we do that, whether it's 17th on goal difference, I'll take that right now. I don't mind, as long as we stay in this league. I think we can do what Villa have done. Villa have built on it, and they've kind of skyrocketed this year.
Yeah.
So I was going to say, Tom, when you come into the league and go through your fixtures, look at your games: Liverpool away, Chelsea away, City away. So happens you've had 2 games, Liverpool and City side by side. those are freebies, really, aren't they? You're not expected to get any points there. You can go and relax and play football, and if something comes of it, great. You've got an unexpected 3 points today. And obviously, no one expects you to get anything against City because they're absolutely flying at the moment. But it's now giving you a real boost because you don't need to worry so much about making sure you beat the teams around you because you're taking points off some of the bigger teams. And that's because of how well organised you are, how well drilled you are. And big physical sides always take points off sides that put the ball on the floor and play football. They kind of overpower them. But at times today, your centre halves are taking the ball off the likes of Shaqiri with consummate ease. So you must be delighted that means you can go into a game against someone in and around you. You've got 3 points in the bank from a game against a team like Liverpool. So it must be pleasing for you to see that.
Yeah, it is. It's pleasing for us. I mean, don't get me wrong. Not to disagree with what you're saying there, but I don't think we're a Burnley. I don't think we just lump it every time we get it. But we do play a bit of football, and we do well playing that football. But yeah, I think like you said, at the start of the season, when you look at the fixtures, you think top 4, top 6 teams. If you get anything at all out of those games, home and away, it's a bonus. But you want to take points off the teams around you. I think actually, kind of the game we played against you last time around at Craven Cottage, that took a lot out of us. Like the game after, I think it was midweek to Brighton, we looked shattered after that game. And it takes it's a big effort for kind of plucky Fulham to go and get 3 points at Anfield. So yeah, like you say, we're following it up with a game at City, but against City, sorry. But yeah, it's kind of today puts us in a good place, I think, in terms of looking forward and the fixtures we've got coming up. Even if we don't get anything out of City, and we don't expect to, we're playing well, and it's more you look at Scott Parker on the final whistle, the game against Everton a few weeks back, we beat them 2-0. Like the passion that he shows on the final whistle because it means so much to the group. Today, again, exactly the same. They're all high-fiving each other. They're cheering. They're kind of celebrating because it means so much to get the 3 points, especially away at the champions. You know,
he's out Jurgen Klopp, isn't he?
Say that again, Dave.
He's out Jurgen Klopp.
Well, you were saying there, Dave, about the kind of when you were talking about Jurgen Klopp standing there with his hands in his pockets. Obviously, because of how it is this season, you can hear things in the ground way more so than you ever were able to.
Yeah.
You look at the game against Craven Cottage. Sorry, this is only 12, 13 games ago. Klopp's going mad on the touchline for the first 15, 20 minutes. You hear him on the commentary. Today, you heard Scott Parker and Matt Wells next to him. You didn't. Klopp was not. He wasn't there today. You know, it's a massive. That's only 12 games difference.
I agree with Dave.
Can I just say as well about Fulham, about the way they play? They came today and they thought they could get a win. The first half, they outplayed us. We didn't have any. They created a lot more chances than us, and they didn't come and sit in a low block. The only point they went to a low block was probably the last 20 minutes of the second half when they thought, come on, let's get this win. They're very different from Burnley. I just want to get that point in. That's a good point.
Mate. Thank you.
And I'll make the point that I wasn't aware I'd referenced them to Burnley. I think they're a better footballing side than Burnley. My point being was, sort of the last 15, 20 minutes, you won the ball, and then you put the ball over the top in behind us for us to go and recycle. And it was like, come and break us down then, because we're big, strong, physical and organised, and you're going to struggle to do that. We don't mind giving you the ball back. That's what I mean by big, strong and physical. No discredit to the way that you play football. It's horses for courses, and you do what you need to do in certain games. And I'd much rather watch Fulham than Burnley, but you are a big, powerful side, and you do dominate people when you get the opportunity. And it's good that you've got that, because that will stand you in good stead for games like Newcastle and other people like that. So, it's one of those really. But Dave Colm, just coming back to Liverpool, do Liverpool going forward play with centre back positions, irrespective of who they are, and we restore the balance in the midfield, or do you see Fabinho going back into the back four?
Excuse me, that's a difficult one, because you need that bit of the ability to read the game, which Fabinho gives you from centre half, that the less experienced lads that they put in today. All right, yeah, you can go on about Nat Phillips. He's a unit in the air, but you haven't really got the ability to play the ball out that you've got if you put Fabinho in at the back. But you're missing that bit in midfield then. So, you've got a big, massive dilemma. Obviously, it's not worked today. So what does Klopp do? And that's the catch-22. I think half the time he doesn't know what to do for the best because he's not got the players to sling them in.
I would have started Fabinho midfield today. If you want to play two centre halves, like you did
I agree with you. Yeah,
Fabinho should start in midfield.
Yeah, definitely. You know, Milner's legs look like they've gone. Sadly,
they have.
Yeah.
They are.
So you need to put Fabinho in the middle. What Ian's saying there to cover that, you've got your two relatively inexperienced lads. I think if he would have started what you just said there, Fabinho covering him, it might have been a total different ball game.
Yeah.
I think that there's a blueprint for all 6 games we've lost on the trot home, and it's every single game's been the same. Every team will let us have the ball. They'll trying at that space, as you say, Steve, all the time, in and around our right back, our right centre half, that inside left channel for them. And we have enough of the ball. We have enough of the ball, or we have the majority of the ball in all those 6 games, that you don't need to worry too much about who's playing centre half. Do you know what I mean? If you look at it today, I'll chuck this out there to the Liverpool guys. I mean, Tom's not going to know so much because obviously he's not watching as many Liverpool games, but the 2 centre halves for us today, in my opinion, are the only 2 lads who have performed to the level that I would probably expect from them.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody else who played for Liverpool today. I think Nat Phillips had a good enough game. You know, all the time he can compete and stuff like that. He's fine, no worries. Reece Williams didn't have a lot to do, in all fairness, but they played at the level that I would have expected from them. I don't think anybody else who played for us today played at the level that I would expect from them.
And when was the last time that you said that about everybody on the pitch?
Yeah. Chelsea.
Say again.
Yeah.
Yep. Chelsea. None of them played that well against Chelsea either.
No, when did they all play at the level? That's what I mean.
Yeah.
When can we honestly say they played? Leicester City, Christmas.
I mean, West Ham, the majority of them played well, and Spurs, the majority of them played well. And do you know what? Funnily enough, we won those 2 games. But that's generally what you need. Listen, all you guys have seen enough football and played and that kind of thing. If 7 or 8 of your starting 11 play to the level that you would expect from them, and they're good players, you stand a really good chance of winning the game. Because what they'll do, they'll carry those other 2 or 3 through. So if you have 7 or 8 of your players that are playing at 7 out of 10, there's a good chance you'll win a game of football if you're playing for a club like Liverpool. Yeah, and then the other 3 will get dragged through, or they might get taken off and they'll get replaced by someone else who comes on and plays that level. When you've got 2 of your lads who probably playing at their best, they might just scrape about a 7 out of 10. They might just scrape about a 7 out of 10 in terms of Phillips and Reece Williams. And the rest of them aren't playing anywhere near a 7 out of 10. You're always going to struggle.
Can I just jump in there, mate? It's one-dimensional. You're right what you're saying, but it's one-dimensional and it's predictable. You know, out to the flanks, boom, into the middle. Where's the big centre forward in the middle to get the headers? Yeah. You can understand the way Mane or Salah gets the ball coming in with the headers at the back, but where's your big centre forward?
Yeah.
And they keep persisting. When we were growing up playing football, you played direct football, picking a pass and slicing the defence open for your centre forward or your forward to run onto to bury it. How often do you watch a game of football now where you see someone play a defence splitting pass and basically winning the game for you? You're lucky if you see one of them every 5 games now. It doesn't happen. Everyone goes down the wings. Where's your creativity and your creative flair and the ability to cut the defence open? It doesn't happen.
100%, Dave. And I think I've suggested this on a couple of occasions. If you could look down on the ground and see a heat map for all the activity that goes on during a game, the central area from the edge of the centre circle in the opponent's half to the edge of the box would be cold. And all of the heat map would be down the outside. So the difference being, for me, in what you said, and you're exactly right, who's in the box to put the ball in the net is Trent and Robbo were putting the ball into a certain area and we were getting loads of goals off it. Defences have got a little bit wise to that now, and they stand in the area that needs to put the ball in. So we've not evolved and developed and gone forward. And Powley quite often says, and I completely agree, there's a trait developing in Klopp that is nothing short of stubbornness. And sometimes you've got to say, this isn't working and we've got to change it. And the longer you leave it, and the bigger the problems we get, the harder it becomes to change it, because you kind of then feel like you've got to prove everybody wrong. It's a bit of a worry, isn't it? You know, you're right, very, very predictable. All the teams sit in against us for a reason. Manchester United sat in against us. This is on the counter-attack, because, as Dave says, that's your blueprint. You don't need to watch the last 6 games. You need to watch one. And the video is the same for every single opposition that's come to Anfield. So it's really frustrating. Ian, just what are your thoughts on what we do with the centre-back position for the rest of the season? Do you think that you stick with those 2 lads today? I think Dave's got a point. They played to their capabilities today, and the goal wasn't down to them. Although when you watch videos at professional standard, you cut out the problem as soon as you can. So Mo Salah will get lots of stick for giving the ball away on the edge of the box. But when they look at the video at the training ground tomorrow, they'll take it back 3 or 4 phases and say that's the first place you cut out that danger, and then it doesn't get to Mo or it doesn't get to Alisson. So, what if you were in Klopp's shoes now? Are you sticking to the bit? I know you think Fabinho belongs in the middle. Are you trusted in those 2 lads at the back, and maybe Kabak when he's fit?
It'd be Kabak and another for me. I mean, I know he's not won many fans over right now, but I think Kabak has probably shown the most promise, and he's got a bit. He looks like he's got a bit. I wouldn't say he's Linford Christie, but he's got a bit more pace about him compared to Phillips and Reece Williams. So it'd be Kabak and another one. I'd probably go with Kabak and Phillips with Fabinho in midfield. I just think if you're protecting your midfield and you're stopping it in midfield, you're stopping it becoming a problem for your centre halves. I think once you put Fabinho back in central defence, you're saying we can't stop the problems in midfield. So let's try and stop the midfield. Let's try and stop the problems in an earlier phase.
Good shout. So our goal didn't come from mistakes from the centre halves. It came from a mistake by a forward finding himself, first of all, on the wrong side of the pitch and facing his goal. And whilst Mo Salah's strong in terms of holding people off, running towards goal, he wouldn't put defensive strength down as one of his attributes. From a fan of the opposition, what did you think of our 2 centre-backs today? Listening to what Dave said before about them playing to their capabilities, did they perform better than you expected? Were they easier to play against than you expected, or did they surprise you and play a bit better?
Just to touch on the Salah, when we scored our goal there, and Lamina kind of anticipates that. Just to touch on that quickly, I think we've all played football. When you've got a ball coming to you like that and it bounces, and you've got someone behind you who's anticipating the bounce ahead of you, it's incredibly difficult to try and hook that away with someone right behind you and stop them getting the ball without giving a foul away, because you're always going to play second fiddle to the person who's got the momentum with them. So that's what I'll say on that. But in terms of centre halves, yeah, I agree with Dave. I think what else can you expect from? I mean, they're not Van Dijk, are they? They're not going to do what he does. They're not going to do what Joe Gomez does. They are the players they are at this stage of their career. You know, you're not going to expect exactly the same things from those 2 as you would your kind of regular first team starters that you've had for the past couple of seasons. I think that's just the crux of it. So
did you think they did okay, or would you say?
I think they did as much as they could. Yeah, I think they kind of dealt with Josh Maja pretty well. I mean, Josh Maja still relatively unproven force in the Premier League. He's not done too much. I think they did okay. I think the one who stood out to me, just from an opposition fan's perspective, was Williams at right back. He looked like he kept getting caught because, as you say, he kept trying to support the play. And Lookman had there was one, I think, that I remember Bobby Reid put a ball over. I thought it was offside all day because he had so much time and space. And he just ran straight up to Alisson near enough and cut back on himself. And that typically, like against the top team, that shouldn't really be happening. I mean, we're in the bottom 3 and you guys are up the top of the table. You're champions. Like that shouldn't happen for someone to get caught that badly, you know?
So, moving away from the defence, Dave Cole, moving into midfield. Obviously, let's be realistic. We're not likely to see Henderson again this season because that's a bad injury he's had. Who'd you go with and why in our midfield? What's your thoughts? Because we've seen them all in the last couple of weeks. And I'm interested to know where you see the strengths and how we get out of the slump and with which personnel.
Stonewall, it's got to be Thiago, Ginny, and the last one is a difficult one. You know, it's got to be Thiago, Ginny. Oh, good God. This is how bad things are. Who's your third? I honestly, there's not a standout one who I could say, you know, I would even put a different one on it and put Bobby Firmino at the top of a midfield, like a wedge, with Thiago on one side and Ginny on another, as like your holding ones, or you know, whatever you want to call it, and put Firmino at the third one, at like the top of your midfield spear as such, and then put Jota on one side, Salah on the other, and then Mane. You know, you need that creativity in midfield, because this now with the going up your flanks, you know, it's not working because teams are sussing us out. So we need to have an alternative.
Sounds like a plan to me. Dave, your thoughts on midfield?
I like that. I said a couple of weeks ago, Bobby Firmino, it's not really working for him up front, or it's working for him in fits and starts. So I said that on there the other week, didn't I? I thought it might be an idea to drop him a bit deeper. I'm still not, as we are at the moment, I'm still not completely sold on Thiago. Although, listen, I do think he's a world-class footballer. So I'm not sure about that. I would get Fabinho back into midfield no matter what. Gini would always play for me, no matter what. Yeah, it's really tough. Really tough. It's you know, I wouldn't put Fabinho back into the back four, but he will put Fabinho back into the back four, because I think it's nailed on. I just, you know, there's so many people saying about he hasn't got a plan B, and it seems that, you know, we seem stuck in our way and all that kind of thing. And I think that's what he'll do. I think he won't. He does. His hands forced today. He's had no choice. He's played for Fabinho the other night. He's had to give him a bit of a rest today and not start him, and therefore, yeah, I just can't see him putting Fabinho back into midfield.
I'm with Ian. I think we go with Kabak and one of that. And the reason why is I'd like to see sort of a double pivot of Fabinho and Gini with either Thiago or Bobby in front. Why have a player of Thiago's ability and then play with a system that doesn't allow him to show us what he can do? I could totally agree with you. He's a world-class footballer. That's undeniable. The way we're playing, we're not getting the best out of him. If everybody was fit right now in the system we're playing, there's a question mark whether he'd even start the game. You'd probably go with Ronaldo, Henderson, and Fabinho if everybody was fit with the system we're using at the moment. That doesn't mean it's right. Why have a player with that ability and not try and use him? So if you play Fab and Gini as your double pivot, you could push Thiago right up in the pocket in front of the back three. That guy can pick a pass for fun. Ridiculous ability. I just don't think we're using him properly at the moment. Thoughts anyone out there? Tom, you know, looking at it from an outsider's perspective, you've read a little bit of what the lads have had to say about the shape of our midfield, which quite clearly, for the most part today, didn't work. Do you see any value in the things that we've said?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's that old cliche of you're trying to shoehorn players into something because they're the player that they are that doesn't necessarily work for them. And it happens mostly, to be honest with you, from my perspective, especially from a club in the bottom three, it happens at the top clubs because you've got so many world-class players to try and squeeze in. Like lower down the league, it's probably easier because you don't have as many decisions to make. You have your starting 11 and they play. You guys have got, even with injuries, you've got a wealth of talent to choose from. So it's about how you kind of you fit them in. Really, that's all I can kind of say from an outside perspective.
Thanks, mate. So we're coming to the end of the pod now. We can't go off the pod without saying congratulations to Steven Gerrard, who left us to go north of the border to take on a challenge at Rangers. What a season they've had. So congratulations to Rangers. I'm sure the boys on here, whether Liverpool related or not, would recognise that they've absolutely smashed it in Scotland. we've made our thoughts clear, Dave. Just good to get yours. If, for whatever reason, Klopp decides at the end of his contract or sooner that this isn't for him, where are you with Gerrard as a potential managerial candidate for the club?
Mate, he's got to be in the mix. Got to be in the mix. He knows the Liverpool way. He knows it inside out, top to bottom, back to front, whichever way you want to spin it. And he has got to be in the mix. God forbid if Klopp went in 12 months' time, Stevie G, for me, you can go on about experience all you want, but he has got to be. I'll hang my hat on it, in fact. He has got to be the next manager of Liverpool.
Dave, we've said if for whatever reason, because at the end of the day, right, there's not one person in this room that doesn't respect Klopp.
Yeah.
4 of us love him to bits.
Yeah.
But FSG will do what FSG do at whatever point they see fit, because this is a business transaction to them, and they don't have the love of the club or the manager or the players that we do. No. Is it a sentimental thing they do to appease the fans if they pull the trigger on Klopp?
No.
Do you think that's a possibility?
No. He knows the way how to play football. Stevie Gerrard there today would have done something totally different, and he might have done something more of what we were alluding to before. He is not a one-dimensional player or a manager. He wasn't as a player, and he won't be here as a manager. I honestly don't think. And he won't put square pegs in round holes. He will have an alternative.
See, I listened to this podcast with Jamie Carragher and also with Robbie Fowler, because I drive a fair bit to work, so I listen to the podcast in the car. What really struck me about Gerrard is when he speaks is how mature he is and his outlook on football is very different to what I expected. He knows himself, he knows what his capabilities are. And 4 weeks ago, before I listened to them, I would have said it might be too much too soon for him. But if you listen to him speak, he's a student of the game. He's learned an awful lot up in Scotland, mostly about himself and how he would have to approach being a manager. It's not inconceivable. Just while I've got you on that, Dave, what do you think of the guys in charge of Leipzig as an option, Nagelsmann or even Linders? What's your thoughts on those guys?
No, I don't think they're ready to manage in the Premiership, to be honest with you. I just don't. You know, the Premiership is the toughest league in the world to come and play in because of the pace. You know, they're like racehorses, and I think that's why Liverpool this season have struggled so much. You know, one of the lads in my group turned around there before and said, well, Klopp hasn't got no plan B, and the lads didn't look at it today, but they haven't looked at it for weeks. That's because they're knackered. And the fit lads, the first choice lads who are playing, they're not fit. They're not fit, they're knackered, they're running on empty. And that's part of the issue, that's part of the problem. But sorry to get back to your point, them lads who you said there, the managers, I don't think they're ready for the Premier League because it's difficult. Although me personally, I haven't got a lot of stock in Mourinho, but you can't knock what he's done. But he's a one-trick pony, and he still gets all the respect in the world because he's done it in a few leagues. But the lads from Germany and or the other lads, they're not ready.
No, that's fine. That's fine. So that's 54 minutes in, guys. So we'll bring an end to the stream there. Tom, it's been a pleasure to have you on.
Thanks for having me on.
As long as we stop the 3-4, we're still in the Premier League next year. We might have you back for the get home and away against Fulham next year. And mate, we'll do end of season thing, and we'll do a transfer window thing, mate. Stay in the group. Anything you want to get involved in, just respond to the thing. Don't you're welcome on here anytime, mate. It's been a pleasure to have you. Dave, thanks for coming on, Dave Kong.
Cheers, mate.
Missed you before on the show, but that's cool. And the two boys are here with me every week. Thanks again, lads. And keep your chins up for tonight. And let's go and see. If Man United get battered, that might make it a bit easier for us, mate. All right, cheers, man. Thanks for coming. It's been a pleasure as ever. Take care.
Well done, boys.
Cheers,
boys.
Take it easy.
See you Wednesday night.
See you Wednesday night, everyone.
Cheers.